I was interested in emergency services ever since I was a little boy. Just like any other little kid, police, fire, ambulance, the lights, the sirens, they're the superheroes of the world to me when I was growing up. My name is Jared Hartley. I'm from Riverview, New Brunswick, and I'm a firefighter for the Department of National Defense. Growing up, I came from a large family. There was 5 boys and 2 girls. We were all homeschooled. So I would say one of my memorable childhood memories was always being outside with my brothers and sisters. Our friends were each other, so we didn't have a lot of people around the neighborhood that we hung out with. It was basically just us as a crew, and we always played softball and soccer out in the field and growing up, and basketball with a little milk crate. So yeah, that's probably one of my fondest childhood memories. So I always had an interest in the lights and sirens, basically. Growing up, many years ago, I had a girlfriend actually whose father was a firefighter, and he had bunker gear, which is their personal protective equipment. He had it in his house, and I remember one day I tried his gear on when he wasn't home, and I knew that day when I tried his gear on that I wanted to be a firefighter. So I said, I'm gonna pursue this and look into it, and so that's why I did that. Essentially, my life as a firefighter is no different than anybody else's life, really. I'm just a normal human being. Essentially, it's I don't even know how to explain it. I'm just a normal, average guy. I took the course, I took the training, I did continuous training every shift. With the phenomenal crew that I have, it's a brotherhood and a sisterhood that you know everyone there has your back, regardless of what the call is. We're ready 24/7. Essentially, we go to work, we go on shift, it's 24 hours, and we walk into the unknown, we call it. We don't know when the bells goes off what call it's going to be. We don't know if it's a medical assistance or just an alarm, but we're always ready for whatever that call is, and that's the best part about going into work is having the crew, the training, and we're capable of doing our job, and we're confident. So the hardest part of the training for me is typically I'm a hands-on person to learn. Training when it comes to reading a book and then writing any sort of test, I'm a hands-on person. So the hardest part for me is when I have to get into the books and read to learn, I have a hard time. I do it, but I have a hard time doing it. I'd sooner get my hands on a tool or get my hands on medical equipment to learn it, and I learn that way. So for me, that's just personally, that's my hardest part, is learning through books instead of hands-on. And the easiest part is waking up every morning and going to work. Like, it's so easy for me to wake up knowing that I'm going in. And again, it's part of the brotherhood. I got a crew that you go in there, and if I have a hard time with the books and the test part of things or whatever it is I have to do, I always have a crew to back me up that's there to support you. So that's essentially the easiest part, is waking up and going into work. So the most memorable part of the fire service for me was 2014. We were in Las Vegas competing at the World Championships for Firefit. And I had met a woman through the fire service years prior, and her name was Jeannie Allen. She had clear cell sarcoma cancer, and she had no insurance for the treatments and stuff, so she was going through experimental treatments, and it was a rough road for her. So that year going to Worlds, it was October, and it was Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So I said there was no better time to wear pink shirts. So I messaged her and I asked her if I could design shirts in honor of her, in her name. And she was honored that I had asked her, and she gave me permission, of course. So we designed some pink shirts. I got one here, actually. I designed some pink shirts for our team of 5 people, and so these shirts I did for our 5 team members, and I did 5 for her team. So she had 5 females on her team, so I did 5 for her team. And so we went to Worlds and we were there competing. The very first day we had so much attraction on these shirts. Everybody was coming up to us asking us if they could buy these shirts because Jeannie Allen was so well known in the fire service. And everyone was asking us if they could buy our shirts or trade shirts, and we said no, we got to keep our shirts. We made these for our team, and like they were nice shirts. So we wanted to do something at the end of the week to maybe raise money for Jeannie to help her get home, or to help with her treatments. So one night at the banquet, it was a Thursday night actually, they do a banquet for the championships, and that night at the banquet, a good buddy of mine, Richard Hines from Newfoundland Fire, really good friend of mine, we come up with the idea to do an all-in auction. So there was 350 firefighters at this banquet, and we said we're going to auction our shirts off. Jeannie had no idea what we were doing, so we auctioned our shirts off, and all the money that people were bidding on these shirts stayed into the pot. So we went around all the tables, collected all the money that were in envelopes, we got a quick count on it, and we went up on stage and we called Jeannie to the stage. And we made an announcement who bid the highest on the shirts, and told her how much we raised, and it was $6,500, somewhere around that area. We did that all in 20 minutes. So we presented that money to her, and it was an awesome moment. She broke down. I did a little speech on the stage. I broke down, to be honest with you. It was one of those moments that you'll never forget. It was so humbling and so heartwarming to do something that small that meant so much to somebody else. So at the end of it, we presented her with the money, helped her get home, and helped her with her treatment. And the team who bid the highest on the shirts actually came up to us at the end of the night and gave our team back all of our shirts and told us it was awesome that we did that, and they wanted us to take the shirts back and redo it in another event. So we have our shirts, and we never redid it. We all actually kept our shirts for memorial sakes, and I still have mine. I'll keep it for as long as I'm in the fire service. I'll have this shirt to remember Jeannie Allen. She's now passed with her cancer, and yeah, I have this to remember 2014 and the great experience. I have the same routine every night before I go on shift. So essentially, I always get my uniform out, have it ready. It's one of my favorite times is the night before shift, bringing my uniform out. I love putting my uniform on. I'm proud to put my uniform on to represent Department of National Defense as a firefighter. So I do the same routine. I get my gear out, I pack my bags, do my lunch, and then I spend time with my family. So it's always a movie, and we snuggle on the couch, we have family time. I tuck the boys and girls in, I tuck the kids in and let them know like I love them. It's the same routine every night, just a little more special the night before shift. I never think about going on shift thinking, that call's going to happen. I don't think about that. My knowledge, my training, my crew, my officers, my platoon chiefs, deputy platoon chiefs, we all have the skill set to do our job adequately and efficiently. So essentially, to put my life at risk, yeah, it's a risky job, absolutely. But I know it doesn't matter what the call is, that we have the right people in place, that if a worst case scenario situation happens, that we get pulled out of that situation. I have confidence in my my officers, that they have my back. So essentially, going into a fire, going into a domestic call, I'm more than confident in my crew and myself and my training. So essentially, and those calls, putting myself at risk, puts myself responsible for the public, for public assistance, medical assistance, environmental, saving properties, the environment. I'm proud to do that. I'm humble to be walking into someone's worst situation, essentially. So me as a firefighter, I go in, just for an example, to a medical call, and most of the time we don't see people at their best time, you know what I mean? So we always see people at their worst time, and anytime someone sees us, it's when they call 911, and we respond to those calls, so they're always at their worst. I have a responsibility to handle the calls as they come, and I'm proud to be the one they're calling. I'm confident that I can help the public, the environment, the structures on the base. Essentially, we're mandated to the base unless we get called out for mutual aid with the town of Oromocto. So it's a big responsibility, but it's not a responsibility that I don't think I can handle myself or my crew. So it's quite humbling to have them call us to their worst situation. Essentially, we're walking in as they're running out, so it feels good. My biggest influence would be, I would say I'm an observer, so there's a few people in my life that I've looked up to that have been role models to me. One being my deceased uncle, who was the chief of police in Halifax when I was actually going to fire school. I lived with him for a little bit. He was a huge influence in my life. He taught me the rights and wrongs in the world, in the emergency services. Him being the chief of police, he guided me to the path that I'm in now. Essentially, I wrote the police test. He always wanted me to be a police officer, so I actually wrote the police test. And I was halfway through the police test when I got the letter to the fire school saying I was accepted to fire school. And I really knew I wanted to be a firefighter. So during that time with my uncle, he supported me 100%. Even him being the chief of police, he wanted me to go to the police force, but he knew my passion was firefighting, and he supported me and helped me through that whole process of getting in all the tests, the studying, how to handle myself, interviews. So he was a huge influence in me in my late teens. And another influence or role model, someone I look up to, would be Brian Barnes here in the city. A really good friend of mine's father. He's also a retired police officer. Very humble man. Taught me a lot. All I need to do is watch him and observe how he handles himself with his family, with his daughters, how he treats his wife. He's a gentle man. You can tell he's passionate about his family, passionate about everything he does. So I watch that, I see that, and I feel like I have the same attributes as him. I look at my family, I love my family, I do anything for them, I love my wife. So yeah, I look up to Brian, I look up to my uncle that's deceased. But yeah, I would say those two men have guided me a long ways in life and taught me the ropes. Yep, I do remember the first time. I was just at a fire school actually, and I was volunteering at Station 58 in Halifax, and the tone came in for a dumpster fire. And so essentially it was the first time that I heard the bells, and I got in the back of the rig, and I remember like looking for the radios and looking for this, and looking around, make sure I had my pack on. And I had dropped the radio actually in the back of the rig, and my captain yelled, "Hartley!" He's like, "Are you gonna be all right back there?" And I said, "Oh yeah." He's like, "There's no need to be nervous." He's like, "We're in this together." And it was only a dumpster fire, but it was my very first call, and I was really nervous. So anyways, we got on scene. They threw the hose right at me because I was the new guy. We got the fire out, and back to the station. We debriefed, and the boys had a good laugh that I was so nervous for a dumpster fire, but we got it, and it was awesome. So that was back in 2004 actually, when that call was. And then as the years went by and I got on full time with National Defence, my very first call actually for the Department of National Defence was a medical assistance, which was it almost turned out to be fatal, but we got on scene, and quick action by the whole crew. Yeah, we did our thing. We got the patient back, and to this day they're doing well and healthy. And so I remember that was my very first 24-hour shift working on as a full-time firefighter, and so essentially that'll be a call that I'll never forget. So it was pretty, you know, magnificent, I guess you can say, you know, or rewarding to know we went to that call, which could have turned out very bad, but with our quick action and our training and the proper equipment, we got her back, and yeah, doing fine now. So that was a good call. The most difficult part of the training in school would have been being a greenhorn, essentially, not knowing anything. So you're walking in blind, and again, I had the lack of confidence going into it, because it was a lot of reading, a lot of studying, a lot of homework, a lot of test writing every week. And with my personality, I'm a hands-on learner, so the hardest part for me was to adapt and overcome the book part of the training. The easiest part being in school was the hands-on, doing it, getting in there, getting the pack on, going into the live fires, you know, putting the fires out, you know, the operating jaws of life, all the hands-on stuff I excelled at. I graduated school, so I did well, eventually did well at the written, and I adapted, I overcome, and yeah, so the hardest was the books and the studying and the tests, and the easiest for me was the hands-on stuff. In 5 years' time, if the opportunity arose, I would love to be in a leadership role as an officer. I like to lead by example, and so yeah, I would say in 5 years I would like to be a deputy platoon chief or platoon chief or assistant training officer. If a position come up, I would definitely apply for it. It's the same process as getting in as a firefighter. You need to write the test and the interviews and the practicals. So if that opportunity came up, I would definitely apply. But if not, I'm quite happy, you know, riding backwards in the back of a truck. It's been my passion. Took me 11 years to get from volunteer firefighter to a full-time firefighter. It took 11 hard years. So yeah, if I had retired and finished my career riding backwards as a first-class firefighter, I'd be more than happy. So, but if the opportunity comes and I can move up the chain, I would definitely like to move up the chain and be a leader for a platoon. Other hobbies would be quality family time. My kids are my world, so anything to do with the kids, whether it's going for bike rides, they love going for bike rides. We like to camp, we love the beach. The beach is just peace on earth, essentially, here in the water. The kids love it. Yeah, and I'm very passionate about fitness, staying healthy. I compete with the FireFit championships. Those are my big hobbies. And I'm a workhorse, so I do a lot of work on my days off. I paint. I have a painting business, so I paint on the side, and so I got to keep that balance for work and family. So it's my passions is work, and family time, and enjoying life, because life's short. Something that people don't know about me is probably a lot of people look at me and see that I'm covered in tattoos. So for me, tattoos is, I like to be a canvas for my own, essentially, emotions. Every tattoo I have on my body has a meaning. I don't talk about all my tattoos and why I have those tattoos, but essentially my tattoos, I do it for almost like a mental release, with past traumas, dealing with certain medical calls. That's how I cope. So I cope with getting tattoos. I don't have anything derogatory on my body. It all means something to me. So I guess people wonder why I have so many tattoos, and I'll continue to get tattoos. It's just something that I'm passionate about. I love them. I like to beat a canvas, and so yeah, that's why I have so many tattoos. It's just essentially a way I cope with things. Something that people may see differently in our world is we're normal people. We have stressors in life on top of everybody else's stresses as well that we respond to. So that's something that people don't take in fact that we have everyone else's stresses with our own stresses. We have families, we have our own lives outside of the fire service. So, you know, some people don't realize that. So just that's one thing that people may not know about the firefighters and fire service, and all emergency services at that. The other is I get a lot of the time people say, oh, you're just sitting around waiting for the bells to go off. Oh, it must be nice to have a job where you sit around and wait for the bells to go off. Well, in fact, we don't just sit around and wait for the bells to go off. We have actually a very intense work schedule. We do the same thing every shift, whether it starts at our turnarounds at 6:30 in the morning with the crew before us. They give us all the details in the morning of if there's any defects in the trucks or the calls before, or buildings that are down, or streets that are out of service, or hydrants out of service. So we do a shift turnover, and then it goes right at 7 a.m. we do our truck inspection. So it's called the daily inspection, where we tear the truck completely apart. Even though the shift before us did that, we do it as well. So every shift does it every morning. So we tear the truck apart, we run up all the equipment, whether it's the chainsaws, the jaws of life, all the lights, the pumps, make sure everything's running. We do that every single shift. So that's at 7 o'clock, and that usually takes about an hour and a half or so to do that. After that, we all meet in the kitchen around 8:15 or 8:30, and our platoon chief gives us our schedule for the day. So, you know, when we can go to the gym, what time we're going to go to training, what we're doing for training, what to prepare for. So that's at 8:30, and around 9 o'clock our crew goes to the gym, and we work out for about an hour and a half, 2 hours max, but we usually work out around an hour and a half. After the gym, we get cleaned up, we have a quick bite to eat for lunch, and then our day starts for training usually around 12:30, 12:45. We're on the trucks, and we go train. And our training goes, it could be anything. Our training could be drafting water, pump operators, it could be practicing first aid and CPR, AED, it could be a number of things. So that's until about 3 o'clock, and then from 3 o'clock until about 3:30 we have an afternoon break where we sit down, have a coffee, relax, chum, you know, have some laughs with the crew, and all in between that, you know, that's not set on stone. We still have to respond to our calls, right? So if the bells go off, that can it'll change our schedule. So just essentially we're not just sitting around waiting for calls. We don't just put our feet up and wait for calls and hope that, you know, we can sit around for the 24-hour shift and, you know, watch TV, because there is some downtime, but for the most part we're on the go, we're busy, we're training, we do public relations, we're out doing fundraisers. So yeah, so that's, if I could let the public know one thing, or people about us, that we're not just sitting around, we're always doing something. The pandemic, you know, it did put a damper on life in general. As far as in the fire service, weekly, daily, we had different SOGs, or standard operating guidelines, that were implemented and put in place, and changing daily. So we had certain guidelines that we had to follow, right down to us, you know, coming to work in civilian clothes and changing into our uniforms, you know, putting our civilians right in the washer, in a garbage bag to the washer wash your clothes, wearing masks. So we had to be keeping our social distance inside the firehouse, separating, you know, at the supper table, chairs apart. It reduced our call volume. So essentially, we were mandated to only respond to traumatic calls, cardiac arrests, and any assistance that Ambulance New Brunswick may have asked for us to be there for them. We responded. So it did put our medical call volumes down a little bit, which are back to normal now. But you know, all we have to do is, you know, accept those rules and guidelines, follow them, and overcome and adapt. It's for our safety, it's for the public's safety, and that's the reason they're in place. You know, it didn't harm me or affect me too much. My family, like, I feel bad for the kids, like the way the kids this summer had to stop and put a damper on friendships and hanging out with friends and things like that. So in that case, the pandemic was hard for them. So if anything that got affected, it was the kids and the children, and the way that their summer was, and their friends, and going back to school here in a couple weeks, how everything's changed. It's going to be hard for them, but I think they'll get through it. I have confidence. It's in place for a reason, and you know, we'll get through this. We're great. We're a great nation here. We've done well in New Brunswick as far as cases, so, you know, props to the public and us, and following the rules to overcome this pandemic. If I could tell anybody who's trying to pursue this career, never give up, accept failure, and use it as a learning curve. Success doesn't happen overnight. It's not given to you, it's earned. If I can give another piece of advice, follow your dreams. If you have a dream to be a firefighter or a nurse, whatever that dream is of yours, it could be anything. Follow it and push hard, work hard until your dream has been filled. And if you don't value yourself first, you will always attract people who don't value you as well. So make sure you're number one, value and respect yourself, and everybody else around you will respect you as well. Be kind. As far as following me, I have a pretty private account. As far as social media, like, I am on Instagram, on Facebook, Jarrett J.I. Hartley on Facebook. Instagram is Hartley Boy. And also on Instagram, there's a page that I have developed, which is called Silent Sirens. That's anybody suffering with mental health or post-traumatic stress disorder. That's just a page where it's just all positive stuff, you know, memes. There's contacts there if you need to talk to anybody with mental health. There's 1-800 numbers on the page. That's just a quick page if anybody wants to check that out and follow that page. It's called the Silent Sirens. That's my page. If you ever need to talk, I'm always around to talk. So yeah, so that's my Instagram, my Facebook, and yeah, that's good. That's it.